RFK Jr., is his fitness for real or is he a fitness fraud? In this episode, we'll do a little bit deeper dive and we'll talk about it. So tune in and take notes.
Welcome to the CrossFit Edwardsville Community Podcast, where we hear and learn from our coaches, CrossFitters, and Glen Ed community leaders. Now, here are your hosts, Dallas and Greg.
What's up, guys? It's Coach G here from CrossFit Edwardsville. In this episode of the podcast, we're going to talk about one of the more controversial figures on the public scene right now, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., RFK Jr., the brand new appointee of the government to be a big part of the health initiatives of our new administration. And as I go into this podcast, we're going to talk about, is his fitness for real or is a fitness fraud? And I'm going to take an approach of this purely apolitically, right? We're not going to look at this through the lens of politics, but purely through the lens of what can we learn about RFK's actual fitness based on the available evidence? Is it for real? Is he actually an example of great fitness in later life as an older gentleman? So let's look into this a little bit, because RFK is, despite being in his 70s now, he does appear to be a striking example of an older man prioritizing fitness and strength and vitality. Based on an initial overview of what I see him doing online fitness-wise, it appears his approach is multifaceted, has a workout routine, a hormone routine, specific dietary choices that he seems to believe contribute to his overall well-being. And I kind of want to do a little overview of what I've learned about each of these categories. So category 1 for RFK, his fitness and exercise routine. Boom, right off the bat, RFK Jr. is fairly well known for having a dedication to calisthenics, body weight exercises that emphasize functional strength, endurance, and mobility. There are bunches of videos of him online where he kind of showcases his ability to do pull-ups and push-ups and other pretty impressive body weight movements, especially in the context of what the average American in their 70s can do. Like, his abilities are clearly not average, not normal. And as a practitioner of calisthenics myself, and as I'm stepping from year to year, I'm always a little older than I was before. I can speak tremendously to the benefit of calisthenics for older individuals, not just myself, but also others in the CrossFit space that do calisthenics. It really does help us to maintain muscle mass, joint mobility, even on a neuromuscular level, neuromuscular coordination with, for most of us, while maintaining an appropriate level of strain on the body, meaning like we can dose calisthenics in a way that is beneficial with minimizing risks. So his commitment and involvement with calisthenics is first impressive, and second, it is interesting and possibly illustrative. Let's go to the next point about this. Aside from body weight training, it's a good chance that he also engages in other stuff like resistance exercise, some weightlifting, probably with free weights, and as well as some respiratory cardio endurance activities. Although the specific details on that, I couldn't necessarily find specific details about that. It's my own personal suspicion, but that is purely conjecture. It is my opinion, and I can't validate that statement. It's just my own gut tells me, based on what I see from him, he probably has some sort of cardio regime, some sort of dedicated resistance training regime as well, because that's what I typically see from older individuals that have his kind of physique and his kind of fitness based on external appearances. So let's go next from fitness and his exercise routine to testosterone therapy and longevity practices, because these are a little bit more publicized. Kennedy has openly acknowledged his use of testosterone replacement therapy, TRT, which can be controversial for some people, yet it's an increasingly common approach amongst aging men to keep their vitality, keep their muscle mass, even keep that cognitive function, because testosterone is a driver of that as well. I think it's well known and does bear repeating that as men age, there's a very, very normal reduction in their testosterone levels, and that can lead to fatigue, muscle loss, reduced libido. People who are in favor of TRT, and there's a bunch of them in every single week, it seems, I see more hormone treatment or hormone therapy places popping up around Glen Ed. It seems like every single week, there's brand new options out there for men who are interested in exploring this to address difficulties related to the normal reductions in testosterone as we age. And I want to address this topic very carefully because I am not an endocrinologist. It is not my scope of practice. As somebody who does not use performance-enhancing drugs of any sort and has never been on TRT or have no interest, not in the near future, of being on any kind of hormone therapy, I don't have a lot of experience with it. So I won't claim to have an expertise that I do not have. I do know that people that are in favor of TRT says it helps to, address the difficulties with vitality and muscle mass and all that, understanding that there are certain risks associated, like cardiovascular risks, hormone imbalances can be a thing. Again, I don't want to step outside my scope of practice because I know what I know and I know what I don't know. It is worth noting that TRT should only be done under medical supervision. That's just good practice. I assume that's what RFK is doing. But again, outside my scope of practice, I will say that his physique and his apparent energy levels do suggest he's doing it well, and he's found a regimen that seems to work well for him. Just know that it's not necessarily a one-size-fits-all solution for everybody. So the third category for RFK's fitness that I explored, dietary choices, specifically his affinity for raw milk consumption. I found this was interesting. RFK Jr. has a well-publicized, well-documented preference for consuming raw milk, which is, if you don't know, it's unpasteurized milk that some people believe has superior nutritional benefits compared to the pasteurized counterpart. People who are a fan of drinking raw milk claim that it has more natural enzymes, probiotics, and vitamins, which in theory maybe makes it a healthier choice than pasteurized milk. But then you also have some pushback. Some agencies like the CDC claim that maybe it has a higher risk of bacterial contamination, which maybe leads to foodborne illness, and maybe you get sick from that. Beyond the raw milk stuff, RFK's dietary habits are not especially well publicized or documented, but given his focus on longevity and vitality, it is reasonable to assume that he probably follows a fairly thoughtful, conscientious, intentional, purposeful nutrition program of some sort. Probably eats a lot of whole foods, probably focuses on protein consumption to maintain his good muscle mass at his age, probably has a healthy intake of dietary fats for great energy, high octane energy, probably eats minimal amounts and maybe none processed foods, which is just good practice. So RFK dietary choices. So as we kind of recap this episode, we looked at his fitness and exercise routine, his testosterone therapy and longevity practices, dietary choices, and raw milk consumption. So in summary, RFK Jr.'s fitness, is it for real or is it fraud? From what we know, RFK Jr.'s level of apparent fitness from the videos of him doing physical feats that are readily available, widely available online, it is undeniably impressive. His physical capabilities suggest that his regimen is working very well for him, and perhaps it could work well for others as well. If nothing else, RFK, he embodies the idea that aging does not necessarily mean you have to decline, you have to lose strength or vitality. It doesn't necessarily mean that you have to be incapable or you have to be dependent, or you have to be bedbound, or you have to require assistance. Convalescent home does not have to be the future for older men here. There's a winnable battle here where you can maintain vitality and energy, a great physique, even into later years. For older men looking for role models in fitness, RFK Jr. is at a minimum. He's showing that if you stay active, if you do strength training, whether resistance as body weight or external weights, and tracking and maintaining hormone levels, presumably with the guidance of a doctor, can contribute to longevity and well-being. In the next episode of the podcast, I'll do a little bit deeper dive on what we can learn, what older individuals can learn and potentially model from RFK as an example. So thanks for tuning in for this episode, and we will see you guys in the next one. Peace.
Thanks for listening to my dad's podcast. For more useful tools and guidance, go to CrossFitEdwardsville.com and feel free to like, share, subscribe, and leave your thoughts in the comment sections down below. See you in the next episode.